SCA will pass. It is your partner, it is your parents, it is your children, your siblings that will remain, your friends. Look after yourself, relax your mind, sleep well, eat well, drink well. Do other things to break the stress cycle. Hello friends, welcome to my channel. And if you're new, my name is Olaoluwa Fajimi. I'm a portfolio GP and training program director based in Coventry. I am your GP training buddy. I've been a very busy man in the last 7 weeks because I've been delivering a series of webinars to Nigerian doctors scattered all over the UK. These webinars are to address most of the problems IMGs particularly face when it comes to the Simulated Consultation Assessment, SCA. I did deliver these webinars on behalf of Nigerian doctors in the UK. And I thought, why don't I bring it in here so that everyone else can benefit? Now, 5 of them have been given. The first one is an extensive teaching on the introduction to the SCA. The second one looks at consultation structure for your SCA. The third one looks at how to effectively take a focused history. And the fourth one looks at interpersonal skills, what the RCGP now refers to as relating to others, RTO. And the fifth and the last one talks about effectively sharing your management. A few tips. To get the best out of this series of webinars, I would highly suggest that you watch them in order, because these teachings are rather long teachings. You will need to watch them when you are absolutely free in your study time in order to get the best out of them. Third thing is, please get your pen and paper when you want to watch them. Finally, I've seen a lot of people wait till the stage 3, maybe the middle of the stage 3, before they start preparing. And then they do a few role plays only to realize that there are a lot of things they need changing and the time they've got is not enough to do so. Don't be like that. Once you've cleared your AKT, even in ST2, start watching these webinars. Start role playing. Start actively seeking for feedback from your supervisor, from your friends. Identify very early on what are those problem areas that you need to address and start working on them. Don't wait till it's 2 months to your SCA. Don't do that. So I wish you all the best and I hope you get the best out of these webinars. If you're still not subscribed to my channel, I would highly recommend that you subscribe so that you never miss any of my videos. Thank you and enjoy the introductory webinar. What is the SCA? As you all know, is the Simulated Consultation Assessment. It's the permanent replacement for the RCA. It was specifically designed to rectify some of the problems identified with the RCA. And the sole purpose of the SCA is to assess a GP's ability to integrate and apply skills for appropriate general practice. It is a standardized exam. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this. And it brings together the clinical, professional, and of course, the communication skills, which you've heard so much about. Specifically, it looks at the ability of the doctor to demonstrate and achieve the principles of GMC's good medical practice in that one, that the patients are safe, that the GP is adaptable, that they are able to treat all types of patients and all types of illnesses, that they have a good risk management skill, and that they are able to exhibit appropriate behavior, attitude, and concerns for their patients. Please note the word appropriate, and that's something we are going to be dwelling on so much in the next couple of lectures. As you are aware, the SCA has got 12 consultation stations, 12 minutes each of them, and 3 minutes in between each station, and 10 minutes break after the 6th minute. So I'm going to be showing you how to use your 3 minutes very effectively. That 3 minutes break you've got in between your stations, how to use it, what your line of thought should be at that time. We're going to be discussing those in the subsequent teachings. They are professional role players. These patients, they are professional actors and actresses who have been trained, calibrated, and standardized for the purpose of the exam. Now, one thing I've heard so much about and a lot of people talk about is bias. And one of the steps that the college has taken to mitigate against bias is to subject the developments and the delivery of this exam into EDI scrutiny to reduce bias, especially against those that English isn't their first language. So, as far as trainings are concerned, stations may look similar. For instance, if 2 people have written the exam the same day, they may say, oh, how about that hypertension case? How about that multiple myeloma case? Yes, they may look similar, but the way the role players are trained is to adjust to your style, knowing that there are different styles. Now, the commonest format of the exam will be the patient themselves, but you would have 1 or 2 of your stations where you're going to be talking to parents, to carers, and to other professionals who are your professional colleagues. Now, there are going to be mainly videos. You may have 1 or 2 that are telephone. What I would advise with this is to practice with your everyday consultation. We will get to that. And physical examinations, as you're aware, are no longer assessed. They are now assessed as part of the workplace-based assessment, which the ARCP panel will be looking at, and which I expect that your ESR will also cover in terms of your final ESR particularly. Now, for this exam, by far, one of the biggest challenge I see with our people is the fact that people do not understand the basics. And that's the problem. The popular saying goes that when the essence of something is unknown, abuse is inevitable. Now, this exam, it recognizes that UK GP consultations don't follow a model, but at the same time, it recognizes that there should be some sort of a structure. This exam will take into account several factors like the medical background, the social circumstances, the disease severity, the disease stage, and the illness versus the disease itself. How is this disease affecting that person? 2 people may have diabetes, and one is a bus driver, and the other one teaches. How it will affect them will be completely different. So we are expected to bring out how it's affecting them and to also bring out measures in place to mitigate that as well. Now, what this exam is looking is how much is the doctor able to bring all these factors into play in the course of their consultation. That doesn't mean there won't be a few straightforward scenarios. There would be, and I've had a lot of people saying to me, oh my God, that station was so easy, but I kept going on and on because I thought there was something hidden there. I thought I was missing out something important there. So you're going to have straightforward stations, and the way to know whether you've done the right thing or not is to have a structure. We'll talk about that. Now, you would agree with me that the landscape of general practice is changing. The modern day UKGP is now handling more and more and more complex issues. Many of the simpler issues are going to be addressed by our colleagues, the ARRS staff. We are going to be the one dealing with the most of the complex cases. That's one. Two, due to contractual issues, a lot of what secondary care would normally do are now being sent back to primary care. So the modern day GP needs to be equipped to meet these challenges. Some of you may have heard that there is talk about fibromyalgia services, about some rheumatology services coming back to the GP in terms of the diagnosis, in terms of the management, in terms of everything. So the GP is being entrusted with more and more responsibility by the day. And this exam tries to mirror that. The questions will provide a lot of cues if well utilized. In fact, there is a saying now that almost every single thing in the question, if well utilized, has something you can use it to achieve. The way the role players are trained is that they will give you the cues a few times, 2 or 3 times, and that is it. At the end of towards the end of your stations, the patients are usually given a few questions to ask about the diagnosis. Bear this in mind, because when you've done your management and then they have 2 or 3 questions, it's to make sure that the ones you haven't covered are covered so you can get your full mark. It is a national examination. And the point of that is that in instances where there are local systems and local pathways, national guidelines will take prominence over those because it's a national examination. It's not a Midlands examination. It's not a London examination. So for an IMG, in my experience, training a lot of IMGs, Nigerians, by far the biggest challenge I see is the fact that we are not integrated. When you are integrated, you can understand what I'm saying without me actually saying it. So, and there has been a lot of arguments on why female trainees tend to do better than male trainees, and I think the reason why is simply because they are on the average better integrated. So the preparation for this exam starts at the beginning of training. It starts at how integrated you are, how you understand what people are saying without them saying it, how you understand the British street language, because all the use of all this will come to play in the course of your consultation. As you know, you're going to sit for it in your local surgeries. There are IT requirements. If you're the first trainee that will be sitting for this exam, I would recommend to discuss with your practice manager and your supervisor, making sure everything is put in place. For those of you who's gone to medical school in the UK or who have worked in medical school, there is a platform called OSLA, and that's the platform through which this exam will be delivered. Now, the entire examination will be recorded. It will then be viewed and marked by examiners at a later date. As you know, you can do it from ST3 onwards. My advice will be only appear when you're ready and take your circumstances into account. I see a lot of people telling me, yeah, I'm coming from maternity. I will just, do it during my maternity, and take your circumstances into full account. Discuss your plans with your supervisor before you reserve. There are 9 diets here. Reservations can be done 12 months in advance. So from towards the end of ST2, you can reserve. Booking is 7 weeks to the exam date. You can cancel or adjust your reservation at any time for up to until 7 weeks before the exam. It does not constitute booking reservation. It has happened to a few people who have reserved the exam, who believe they are booked for the exam. Reservation does not constitute booking. Those who reserved will then be sent a link within 7 weeks and they will be required to then complete a booking information and pay the examination fee, which is a little over 1,000 quid. What are the reasonable adjustments available? There is additional reading time before each case. There's additional rest time, rest break, and there's additional consultation time. These applications are only done on a case-by-case basis. You need to submit your evidence to the examination body. Ideally, you want to do that 3 months before your exam date, and that's the form to fill. This presentation is going to be put on the NDUK website, so you can access it and click on that, or you can check the RCGP website for it. Once you've had reasonable adjustments approved for one examination, it will apply to your subsequent examination. But that comes with a caveat, and the caveat is that if there are then changes in circumstances, you need to then let the college know before your next examination. Otherwise, it would be assumed that the same changes you needed for the last one are the ones you're needing for this exam. So what are the specific conditions through which you can have reasonable adjustment? Learning disability, ADHD, physical conditions and disabilities. If you're pregnant or you're breastfeeding, then you should consider reasonable adjustment. When you do your reasonable adjustment, how long does it take for the college to get back to you? If it's not complex days, they aim to get back to you within 10 days. For complex one, it can take up to 28 days. And as I mentioned, you need to notify the college if there are any changes. Now, there is the SCA Comfort Aid, which are the list of things that are based on your medical condition to which you have sought reasonable adjustment that you are allowed to take into your examination room. And as you can see, the list is a very long list. So if you think any of them applies to you, I would very highly recommend that you go through them as early as you can and put in an application as soon as possible. Now, how do you prepare for this exam? Number one is to understand the basics of this exam. What is the basis of this exam? The basis of this exam is your ability to bring many factors to play in the management of one patient. All the factors surrounding them in the management of one patient. And that is why our colleagues whose management plan is like an hospital kind of doctor, they struggle in this exam. And that is why one of the top things I teach is what I call primary care management. There is no condition without primary care management. When a doctor deals with the primary care management of things, they are likely to score the full mark in the management bit. But unfortunately, because many of us have got hospital background, it is that referral we want. It is that blood test that we nail that diagnosis. Those are not bad. Those are good. But as the popular saying goes, our charity must begin at home. We must deal with simple things first. Second thing is that aim to be a good doctor. We do not pass SCA because we do not become good doctors because we've passed SCA. No, we pass SCA because we are good consultants. So especially those still in ST2, I will very highly recommend that genuinely want to be a good consultant. If you're a good consultant, you will pass this exam. Develop a study plan early. Have a consultation structure. I'm going to be teaching on that. Role play all the time. Role play with a wide range of background in your role play. I get invited to a lot of groups, and I go into groups and I see 8 people, all from Ogbomoso, in the same group. And they are making the same mistakes because they are all from Ogbomoso. So widen the background of your role play. Get British and native doctors in there. Get a wide range. Even among your Nigerian doctors, don't bring everyone from Inewi into your study group. No, you're going to make the same mistakes, and you're going to Verify your own mistakes. Accept feedbacks. Accept feedbacks. There is a popular saying, well, it is my saying, and the saying says that you are not your feedback. So when people give you feedback, accept them. Be selfish with your feedback. Don't look at anything other than yourself. How am I going to improve in this? Let that be your only concentration. If you accept feedback, you take them on board and you're able to work on them many times, one would do better. Do mocks. Do mocks. One of the common things I tell supervisors is that there are things you cannot pick up from your training when they do 1 or 2 role play. But what I do is that I ask the doctor to do 7 or 8 stations back to back. And what I'm looking for are recurrent things that you will not pick on one, especially from the 4th station upward. You then begin to see a lot of patterns. And when someone gets across to me and they're like, you know what, Ola, I failed this exam. That's what I tell them to do. And I'm able to pick up everything wrong. So do mocks. Number 2 is that do regular video consultation, not the one you do in your role play alone, but the one you do in your surgery. Those of you that know, that use emails as your clinical system, it's got an option for video consultation. Do regular video consultations. Get used to the idea of seeing patients on video. I do it every time, and patients, especially the younger ones, they absolutely love it. So give it a trial, keep doing it till it becomes second nature to you. Because imagine not doing video consultation and your only video consultation are your role plays, and then you turn up for the exam and you've got 12 stations, video consultations, and you're going to be judged on that. You wouldn't have given yourself the best fighting chance. Work on your endurance and stamina. I get a lot of people towards the end of their ST3 doing, yeah, they're giving me 10 patients, they're giving me 12 patients. Do that duration of your exam in your day-to-day consultation. Get used to doing it. Condition your body to it such that your body knows that when you sit down, you're going to be consulting for the next few hours. It will get you ready for the exam. It will help you build your stamina. Because what we find oftentimes is that people do well in the first few stations. By the 6th or 7th station, they're out of gas. They are tired. They are tired, and that's because they have not built their endurance and their stamina. They've not managed to condition their bodies. So what happens on the day of the exam? There are 2 exams scheduled per day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. The morning tends to run 8:45 to 12:25, and afternoon runs from 1:20 to just after 6. Doctors with reasonable adjustments tend to have the exam between 8:45 and 3. Those with extended one, and those with reasonable adjustment tend to do this later in the day. Log in onto the platform and remain in the waiting room, and the platform will automatically move you through all the processes. And the process number 1 will be your candidate registration. The invigilator will join you. They will perform an ID check and do an environment check by asking you to roll your camera 360 degrees to help them see all the areas and the corners of your room, the 4 corners of your room. If for some reasons, because this has been reported a few times, your ID check cannot be done because your camera won't focus, then don't worry. Do a selfie by holding your ID and take your photo with it and send it to the exam team email as I've shown before the test starts or during your half break. You can have a water bottle. You can have an unannotated paper copy of the adult and child BNF, a whiteboard, and a marker to take manual notes. All those are allowed. I will discuss the importance of the whiteboard and marker in subsequent ones. If at any point in time you lose your invigilator, call the alert line on 020 31887680. I would recommend that everyone has this number saved on their phone, just in case, not because we are hoping things go wrong, but because we've got to be prepared just in case things go wrong. So I'll just give a few seconds for you to get this number down. 020 3188 7680. Okay, so you're going to have 15 seconds between registration ending and your finishing time, and then you're sent back to the waiting room, and then from there you have your 3-minute start to read your station. Then your role player appears and it is show time. If you want to leave at any point in time, please inform the supervisor through the message box. You don't need to wait for their response. If you're leaving at half time, you can just leave the message and leave. If you're leaving at any other time outside of half time, then you should wait for their response. So any issue you've experienced, please flag it up for stations 1 and 6. Flag it up during your break, and the circulating invigilator is going to go through it to decide whether it has impacted your performance, and then order a rerun if it has done so. The rerun is going to be at the end of your last station. So after all your stations, you please wait till your screen shows that your exam processing is completed. If you then have reruns after that, you will then be informed and you will be asked to wait for your rerun. How is this examination assessed? Things have changed. For the RCA and the CSA, it used to be data gathering, interpersonal skills, and diagnosis. Things have changed to reflect the emerging complexity of general practice. So the 3 domains are going to be one: data gathering and diagnosis. Data gathering and diagnosis. So may I just mention that every single consultation must have a diagnosis. If it does not have a diagnosis, you've definitely lost a mark. So even if it's, say, a well-controlled diabetes, mention, oh, this is diabetes that is well-controlled. If it's a well-controlled asthma, oh, this is asthma, thankfully your asthma is well-controlled, mention it. Number 2 is going to be clinical management and medical complexity. That medical complexity is that how much does this doctor mobilize all the information at their disposal to manage this patient. And the 3rd is going to be RTO, relating to others. What's your relationship like? The way you communicate, your mannerisms, which is one area many of us struggle with. What are our responses like? How do you modulate your voice? If someone says they've got something and they look visibly sad, how do you do that? Do you just say, okay, and move on? Or do you bring yourself into a position? Now, for each of the domains, the marking style have changed, but then the marks remain the same. The clear pass, it shows that the doctor has demonstrated the standard expected of an independent GP, newly qualified GP. And the pass is that they've sufficiently demonstrated at the standard of a GP. Fail is that they haven't demonstrated that. And clear fail is that they haven't demonstrated that at all. If they have clearly shown that they are below that, clear fail. If certain elements of their performance have shown that they are below that, but they've got a few good ones, then fail. And clear pass, 3 marks, pass 3, fail 1, and clear fail, no. Folks, this is a very stressful exam. Very stressful. Give yourself the best fighting chance. It is doable. Many of us have done it. Many of your friends that you know have done it. So I cannot see any reason why you should not do it. You sure will do it. So first and foremost, have it in mind that you are passing this exam. Number two will be start early. I get calls from people and they're like, oh, hola, sorry, can you do mocks for me? Oh, okay. When is your exam next week? Don't do that. Start early. Gradually build up. Develop that consultation skill. Get confident in that skill you developed. If you're doing it again, don't rush to retake it. Don't rush to retake it. Take your time to digest and reflect what went wrong, especially if you have not passed it by a couple of marks. It can be very deceiving. It can give the impression that, oh, it's only 4 marks. I'm not doing bad after all. It's only a mark. I'm not doing bad after all. Let me retake it. It can be deceiving. And one of the common things I've heard is that, oh, the examiner's feedback, it's not comprehensive. The examiner's feedback is actually very comprehensive. It tells you everything you need to do and everything you've done wrong if used the right way. Perhaps that's something we will look at in the future. You're not the only one writing this exam. Your partner is writing it. Your children are writing it. Your parents are writing it. Your colleagues at work, they're writing it. It doesn't just stress you. It stresses everyone around you out. Every single one around you. So look after your well-being. Take time out to relax yourself. Take time out to do other things other than SCA. SCA will pass. It is your partner, it is your parents, it is your children, your siblings that will remain, your friends. Look after yourself, relax your mind, sleep well, eat well, drink well. Do other things to break the stress cycle.